What's up guys, welcome to a very basic Final Cut 10 tutorial. If you're a more intermediate to advanced user, I do not recommend this. Maybe check out one of these videos instead. But if you are new to Final Cut 10, I think this is going to be perfect for you. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so here we have Final Cut newly opened. Now if this is your very first time opening the program, it'll look slightly different from what you're seeing here on your screen because I already have libraries loaded, and that's these things over here on the left side of the screen. We're going to talk about those in just a second. But I think the first thing most people want to do when they open up Final Cut is actually load in footage. So let's just begin with that. And to do that, you need to make what's called an event. So I'm going to go to File, New Event, or I can simply right click and select New Event. Or if you're a super cool shortcut key ninja, you can use Option N. And that brings up this dialog box where you can name the event. It defaults to a date, but of course you can name it whatever you want to name it. And then you see the library where that event's going to be created. Now mine is YouTube videos, but if you've never made a library before, this will say Macintosh HD right here. And all that you need to understand is that that's where the event is going to be stored. Next, it's time to start making some decisions about your video. Now, if you have no idea about things like frame rate and resolution, stuff like that, you can just leave this as set based on first clip, or you can really get in there and make a custom output for your video timeline. Now that we've created an event, let's go ahead and load some footage into it. To do that, you have a few options. You can use this down arrow icon. You can right click and insert media, or go up to the top and go to File, Import, Media. And that's going to bring up the media import window. Now from here you can see all connected devices and drives on your computer, as well as any favorite locations that you might go to often. That's what you see in the column on the left. The video I'm going to make today is just a montage of Shannon playing with our dog, and you can see once I navigate to the location I can click on a clip that tells me all the metadata information, and I can actually scrub through it and make sure that's the clip I want, and even import just portions of that clip. Since I don't want to load all these clips in the Final Cut, I'm going to select the top one, hold down Shift, select the bottom one, and then click the Import Selected button that you see at the bottom right. Now I'm going to have to make some more choices. These get a little more advanced if you really don't understand what's going on here. So I'm going to go through each individually. The top is just saying where it's going to add this footage to. So it's going to add it to the event that we already created. If we were doing this in a different order, we could make a new event right here. But really where things start to get confusing is down below. And if you're not used to file management, this can really give you kind of a headache. So Final Cut gives you two options. It'll copy the files to the library, meaning that it will take all your footage, all that information, and store it within a library file and organize it for you, or it will leave the files in place. So this is really where you have to decide what kind of workflow you like to use. If you want to manage all your own files and have your own special file system, maybe leave in place is your best option. If you just want to trust Final Cut to handle it, copy to library would be your best option. And I actually use both depending on the project. What's important to remember, if you choose leave files in place, then delete that original folder, then none of your video information will be in Final Cut anymore. So just be sure that you keep your originals if that's the option you choose. Next, transcoding. Final Cut gives you the option here to convert your media for you into something that's more suitable to editing. Most consumer cameras shoot with H.264, AVC HD, or some kind of consumer codec like that, which isn't actually the best thing for editing. So what Final Cut allows you to do here is automatically turn your footage into optimized media, which is ProRes 422, or proxy media, which is ProRes 422 proxy. The only time I would recommend not creating optimized media is if you were really concerned about the current storage space on your computer, because optimized media is actually a separate copy of your original clips that's going to take up a lot more space. Now you can actually always go back and delete that optimized media and retranscode it at some point. But to begin with, if you're really worried about space, don't select it and just edit with your raw footage. If you're not worried about space, in most situations, create that optimized media. And with that, we've kind of gotten out of the way all the hard technical stuff about Final Cut editing, and now we can actually get down to the fun part, and that is making a video. So here we have our footage imported, and this is located in what is called the browser, which is where all your clips are, as well as your project files. And we can view this in a couple different ways. If you click this button down here, you see you can get a list view, which looks like your media import view, and from that you can click on different clips and scrub through it. I think for most people, they're probably just going to use that thumbnail view because it's much easier to see what the clip is right away. So let's actually start this dang edit here. And the first thing you need to do is select what portion of your clips you want to load into your timeline, or what Final Cut 10 calls the storyline. You can see I can scroll through the clips just by scrubbing with the mouse, or I can use the space bar to actually play them. Now you can set in and out points by moving this yellow box around the clip, or using the I and O key. To bring it into the storyline, I can click and drag. I can use these buttons right here, or once again, for you shortcut key ninjas, E is the shortcut key. And I can play that, and now it's showing my timeline play through the viewer, which is the large screen that actually shows whatever selected. Now this is where it can get confusing if you're coming from Final Cut 7 or from Premiere, is that it's not a 2-up style edit system with a viewer and a browser and a canvas. It just has one screen, and wherever you're actually selected, that's what you're seeing. There is an option for typical 2-up style editing, but I don't think most people are using that if they're a beginner. So to continue with your edit, it's simply a matter of clicking and dropping, or using those shortcut I, O, and E keys to put clips into your storyline. You notice our storyline is actually kind of compacted and small and has a lot of wasted space. Well, it's easy to make it actually fit the screen. You can use the little slider down here at the bottom, or what I always use is just Shift Z, which makes the current edit fill out the window. Of course, you can't be expected to get your edits exactly right on the first pass, so that's where you can refine the edits within the storyline. So if I select on a clip, I can actually go in between it where the actual edit point is, and if I click and drag here, you see it changes those original in and out points, so I can really get the refined exact edit that I want. Once I have a good assembly edit down, now it's time to start thinking about the sound. Now the sound is automatically tied in with your clips, and you can see by clicking the little line above the actual waves of it, I can adjust the volume. Obviously you're not tied to only using sounds that you record in camera. To insert either sound effects or music or anything like that, use this little music note over here, and once you click that, you can actually see all the preloaded sound effects and things on your computer, and of course you can load more in or load in things from your iTunes library. And since this is a video of a dog, I think I'm going to insert some dog noises. To do that, I find the sound that I want. I can preview it by double clicking or hitting the play button, and then I just click it and drag it in. This is a perfect time to talk about something that sets Final Cut 10 apart from Premiere or Final Cut 7, and that is the idea of the magnetic timeline and connected clips. See, there's a little line connecting my sound effect to the clip I put underneath. Now, because the clip is the primary storyline element, if I click it and drag it around, that sound effect is going to come with it. And this would work if I had other videos tied to this, or titles, or anything like that. And you can see as I move it around, it adjusts all the other clips around it to avoid things like clip collisions that you would get in a more traditional NLE. Final Cut 10 has a lot of built-in looks and effects, so let's talk about those briefly. If you click the effects button, which is the first in that row right there, you see you have a whole list that pops up. And just for example, in this video, we're going to go to the looks, and we're going to select teal and orange, which is a really popular color grading style that was popularized by Michael Bay in the Transformers movies. So if you want your home video dog movies to look exactly like Transformers, this is basically all you have to do. Like, you don't really need CGI or billions of dollars or anything like that. All you need, teal and orange plugin. And with the inspector open, which is the button that looks like little sliders, you can actually go and make fine-tune adjustments to any effect that you apply, and you can of course apply multiple effects here as well. And if you love the effect that you fine-tune, you can paste it onto other clips by using Shift Command V and then selecting the effect. And the very last thing we'll talk about before we export this thing is adding titles. Now, once again, we're going to select a menu over here from the right side. The title menu is the giant T. That probably makes a lot of sense. Then select the type of text that we want and click and drag it over. Now, here's what's important is that it needs to be on top of the video, because you can think of this almost as like Photoshop layers. If we drag it and put it underneath, it's not going to show up. So we make it on the top, and then once again in the inspector, we can fine tune it and make it exactly how we want. Once we've spent hours of love and devotion and time to color grade and add in sound effects and music and titles, now it's time to share our masterpiece with the world. And you do that through the share menu, and it uses the standard OS X share icon, which is the little arrow through the box, or of course you can do it from the file menu as well. Your options here might look a little different than mine, and that's because I've customized mine by hitting add destination, and you can click and drag and add in exactly the things that you use the most, whether it's directly going to YouTube or just saving still images of a frame. If you use one of the presets, Final Cut kind of takes care of all the necessary transcoding for you, so you don't really have to think about it too much. Where you do have to think though, if you just want to save a copy of the video onto your computer, and that's with the master file setting. Once you select master file, you can select your file name, which is easy enough, but then after that, that's where things get a little more complicated. Before hitting next, always check the settings. Now this is key. I get a lot of questions saying, hey, my Final Cut project sizes are huge. What's going on here? And it's probably because you're exporting it in a format that isn't conducive to small file sizes. H.264 is 9 times out of 10 what you want. But you can use higher quality formats as well. But that will of course have the effect of making those large file sizes. So for example, when I go to ProRes 422, our file sizes goes from 30 megabytes to 250. If I go to ProRes 4444, it goes to 823 megabytes. And if I get real crazy and go uncompressed, our 16-second video goes to 2 gigabytes. Once you have all that squared away, simply hit next, choose where you want the file to save, and your video is exporting. This will trip people up as well if you're coming from Final Cut 7 or Premiere, and that is you can actually keep working as your video exports, because all that happens in the background. If we click the little progress bar here, it brings up this menu so we can see that all that stuff is still going on while we can still make changes or work on other projects. Once that's complete, our masterpiece is ready to be shared with the world or stored for posterity. So that is Final Cut 10 for beginners. If you have any questions, be sure to let me know. As always, thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you next time.